Hi, my name is Adrian Moir. I work for the Dell software group from the data protection business unit. So today I'm going to talk about the Dell data protection solution set and some of the problems we see currently with people's infrastructures and things that people should really consider around their data protection needs, and see if we can help quantify those and kind of have a look at some of the products we can help to resolve some of the problems and give you some very good best-of-class solutions. So Dell as a software group, as a company now, has some 6,000 members. So inside that we have a set of portfolio products that will pretty much touch any part of your environment in your IT infrastructure, whether you're looking for management tools, whether you're looking for virtualization tools, data protection as well. We feature in 9 Gartner Magic Quadrants too, and we have some 100,000 customers within the software group. So some of the product portfolio set that we have in there, whether you're looking at database management, whether you're looking at Windows Server management, whether you're actually looking at identity access management or performance management, we have a tool set for you available within that software group. We can also expand that out into user workspace management, security management, endpoint management, and of course data protection. So we're going to talk about data protection today, and I'm going to give you an overview of some of the issues we're finding out in the infrastructures that our customers see, and we'll give you a view on how we can actually move forward and solve those. So lots of things that are going on right now in the kind of world of IT. Data growth is one of the biggest things. We're seeing data growth around about a 40% year-on-year increase. So managing that data growth is becoming a real problem. With the data growth as well, it comes along with managing a backup window, getting the backups done within the right relevant point in time, and actually getting that data protected in the way that's meaningful for you to recover. We're also seeing limitations around bandwidth as people are moving more and more data out into the remote offices to give users better experience. But we're kind of limiting ourselves to the available bandwidth and how we're going to move that data and protect the content. So in protecting virtual infrastructures as well, so it's been one of the major challenges for a few years. Adding in virtualization has certainly added a layer of complexity into the way that we've actually had to protect data. So we've actually had to invent software to actually resolve these issues. And virtual infrastructures are growing. They don't seem to be getting smaller. People add more and more to these. So we end up with VM sprawl as an issue. And we're actually moving these virtual data centers out into our remote offices. So we're actually adding another layer of complexity out in our remote locations as well. Establishing cloud footholds is another thing as well that people are beginning to undertake. And we have to learn how we're going to deal with protecting the data in those different scenarios as well. How we're going to move data and how we're going to recover it. So the really most important thing is to think about how we recover the data in different infrastructures. Redundant infrastructures is another issue as well. So redundant infrastructure kind of comes into play when we're talking about the kind of disaster recovery scenarios, whether we're looking at having a full disaster recovery scenario, whether we're looking at providing virtual machines, we're looking at the mission critical content that we want to have available for us to actually allow us to recover in a very good time. Then we get into kind of the service level agreements that IT administrators and IT departments are now providing for their business. Businesses are providing more and more data to the edge and for customers to be used. So we have to be mindful about the critical nature of that data set, how we protect it, how we can recover that. And businesses are now looking for internal service level agreements on actually how to produce that content. And complexity is another thing that's coming into a whole scenario, managing the complexity of a larger environment. In the construct of data protection, it can be quite difficult. Different operating systems, physical systems, virtual systems. How are we going to achieve a pertinent data protection solution that spans all of this infrastructure? And then we get into the whole piece around mitigating risk. At the end of the day, that's what we're doing with data protection. We're mitigating a risk of data loss. But we want to do this at an available cost as well. So we have to make sure that we're spending the right amount of money and the right kind of technologies to protect the right data sets that our business needs to operate and function. So some of the things we're actually seeing inside customers' environments, we have this large data growth that's going on right now, this 40% year on year. And we're probably only looking at spending 5% of our budget on managing it. So there's a bit of a disparity there. We see 30% of organizations cite challenges around available bandwidth to move data from remote offices. So again, we're constricting ourselves by moving data out. We're actually creating a problem without thinking for a solution first. We're finding 27% of administrators reporting that virtualization has complicated their backup. We used to do a traditional kind of agent-based backup where we used to install agents on physical servers connected to a network. Now we have to work in a virtual infrastructure with shared infrastructure. And we're looking to agentless solutions to resolve that kind of server growth and service pool that we see. One of the other things, the issues that we seem to be is quite common, is the costs that we're actually having associated with actually spending money on managing the backup software. So we're seeing that 29% of our organization's data protection spending is being spent on management. So rather than spending the time actually introducing new systems and applications and moving the IT infrastructure forward, they're actually spending time managing just the data protection portion of the business. And then kind of finally in the middle, around 1 in 5 of your recoveries are likely to fail. So that's 20% of your backups are not actually going to be recoverable. So it's something to think around. Actually, backing up data is one thing, checking that you can actually recover it is another. And it's something that should be performed by everybody on a regular basis. It's very, very important. So the virtualization stack that's growing, it's increasing. We're getting increasing data duplication. We're introducing bottlenecks, mobility, complexity. Everything's becoming more and more agile. Virtualization has given us a great technology stack, but along with it comes problems when we start to actually really scale out and start utilizing that stack in the way it should be delivered. So VM sprawl is one of them. And we see a vast increase in what people are doing with the virtualization infrastructures, the way they're using it. So by 2016, we're going to be seeing 80% of the server virtualization. It's going to be pretty much done. So you're only going to have 20% left on physical. So virtual's growing all the time. And all of our new kind of workloads we're deploying, 60% of our workloads now are going to be mainly virtualized. So if we kind of look at the remote office conundrum, there's a real issue here. Some of the things that we seem to be doing right now is adding more and more data sets out to the remote offices to give our users a better experience. So we're adding solutions and servers and content and applications. Virtualization has been one of the drivers there, enabling us to do more in that remote office on the smaller footprint of hardware we have available. So the problem we have now is actually putting data out into those remote offices is now how we protect that data set. Do we have somebody at the office manage it that doesn't have the IT skills? Or do we look at replicating the data back into an HQ to look after that content? So bandwidth then becomes an issue to start moving data around, specifically if we're adding more and more and more as we go forward. We've also found that around about 53% of organizations recognize they'd have significant revenue loss if they had an outage of any more than an hour. So the nature of the data sets that we're using have become far more critical these days. A very good example of this is a credit card transaction for an online service. If we lose the database that credit card content is actually in, we can't replay the information. We don't have the credit card number, we don't have the security code, we don't have the expiry date. So it's lost data. And that's an instant lost revenue for that company because they can't charge the credit card. So the way we're using technology and the way we're using our data has become far more critical to the businesses than we've ever had before. So one of the challenges we have with data protection in an ever-growing environment that's getting more and more complex is actually looking at what we need to do to protect it adequately, but a cost that's relevant to the business. And that's becoming a bit of a balancing act. So we have to look at what's available for us in budget and to actually look at the data sets and work out what's critical. Where do we apply the right technology for the right data set, for the right cost? Now we can kind of look at the backup scenario. There's a couple of acronyms that we use in our infrastructure. These are RTO and RPO. RPO is the recovery point objective, which is essentially the last time you backed up. A recovery time objective, RTO, is effectively how quickly your users can have access to the data again. It's really important to understand this is when the users are working with the data again. So the recovery point objective, last time it was backed up, and the recovery time objective is how quickly we're going to recover. So these two are really important to understand. Now we can have very good recovery point objectives and very good recovery time objectives, but those will come at a cost. So we're looking at storage-based snapshotting with high-speed recovery. But of course that comes at the cost of having more expensive storage and having actually space to hold those snapshots on. But of course, if we were looking at not having the loss of data mitigating the risk, that might be pertinent for us to spend that money there. But if we can't afford to do that, we have to look at other solutions, which actually then start to extend the recovery time objective and the recovery point objective. So going the other way, if we actually extend our recovery point objective, we run the risk of losing more data when we recover. And also, the longer it takes us to actually recover the data set, we run the risk of actually losing more revenue for the company. So this is the conundrum now. So how much risk do we mitigate against how much cost? So the question is, how do we do this? Well, where these two meet, we tend to see a balance point. This is the point at which we say you've got the right kind of cost for the right kind of protection that you're looking for your business. But it's important to understand that you can actually solve this conundrum. So as we look at some solutions now to actually help us start solving these issues, if we look at the Dell data protection portfolio, we can kind of use a stopwatch. One of the things that's constant in our universe is time. And time is driven for our recovery time objective and our recovery point objective. So we can look at the way that we want to protect our data sets from a point of view from time. So in our stopwatch, if we start at 12 o'clock and we start working around our stopwatch, the first product we come across is AppAssure. AppAssure is a near CDP solution that provides us very granular snapshot technology. But more importantly, it allows us to recover to recovery point objectives of less than 5 minutes and a recovery time objective of seconds. So now we can actually move the risk away from our recovery time and recovery point problem. So we can recover your data and get your servers back up and running very, very quickly without losing much data. So we move around the clock a little bit further. We get into vRanger. vRanger was one of the very first agentless VMware backup solutions. It's highly scalable, and it's designed to be very, very fast. It enables us to back up virtual machines in parallel. It enables us to actually look at the data sets inside those virtual machines, discard the information we don't need to back up, so we can actually save time and effort on moving, scanning, reading, and writing data, so further reduce the amount of data that we can actually store. And we can move this onto deduplicated storage platforms as well. Then as we move a little bit further around the clock, we get to NetVault. NetVault is a heterogeneous backup solution that will pretty much touch every piece in your environment. Whether you have virtual infrastructures, whether you have physical infrastructures, application content, network attached storage, whether you want to go to disk, deduplication stores, tape, whatever you need to do, it's going to be able to actually get that up and running for you and get protecting your data very, very quickly. So we have a few things that our customers like to say about us as well. If we take the first one as AppAssure. Reducing the amount of storage required to hold their data for longer was very key for this particular company and allow them to actually have a longer recovery point and availability of data for them. Saving time is very important as well. So we have a customer using vRanger that saved 24 hours in recovering a data center. Because of the nature and speed of vRanger, it was enabled to get back up and running much, much faster than they were expecting. And finally, at the bottom, we have a quote from a NetVault user, saving 93% of management time on running a backup solution. So that translates into real-time cost savings for actually looking after and protecting data. If we look across the portfolio of technologies that we have available to you in Dell, we can actually see what we have in the way of technologies to enable data protection. Whether you're looking at replication, array snapshots, near CDP, space-efficient snapshots, looking at disk-based backup, deduplication, and we go all the way out to object storage and tape-based solutions. Now, all of these should be part and parcel of a good data protection scenario. You might not use all of them, and some of them will be more pertinent to your data sets than others. What's key here is that Dell has a range of portfolio protection solutions that are either embedded in the hardware or available to you as a software product to overlay what you're doing inside the hardware. So now you can really augment not only what you're doing in the storage, but also with the software and actually start abstracting data out to give you high degrees of data protection and recovery capabilities. So let's have a look at one of the products we have in the software. So let's have a look at AppAssure. AppAssure is a near CDP solution, so it allows you to do 288 snapshots of data. So if we do the math, that's around about one every 5 minutes. It's a very, very lightweight data collection, and we can reconstruct the content as well on the AppAssure core, which allows us to give a view of the data set and recovery. So it allows us to recover an entire disk if we need to, back to the server. And while we're still recovering the data, you get to go and use it. So now your recovery time is greatly reduced. We can also move the backup content as well to another AppAssure core server, and it's WAN optimized, so we can actually move the data somewhere else. So now you start to formulate AppAssure as part of your disaster recovery plan. So now you've got good recovery points, 1 every 5 minutes. You've got good recovery time objectives. You've got the ability to have DR as well. So we can recover to physical or virtual scenarios too. So whether you're protecting a physical machine, we can recover it to virtual, or the other way around, or even between different virtual platforms. If we look at some of the use cases we've had for AppAssure, AppAssure also includes a technology called virtual standby. So this enables us to actually protect a physical or a virtual machine and have a secondary copy sitting there receiving the updates that you're taking every 5 minutes. And it's enabled there for you to just to spin up when you need it. We can also transform the protection as well with its universal recovery technology inside AppAssure. This allows us to recover the backed up contents to a physical machine, different hardware, to a virtual machine, from virtual to virtual, from virtual to physical. So it's very, very agile in its recovery mechanisms. It can put the data where you need it, when you need it. Let's have a quick look at vRanger. We've moved around our stopwatch a little bit. Get into the wide virtualization piece. It's that large scaled out VMware installation, where we're talking hundreds and thousands of virtual machines. vRanger allows you to protect them very, very simply, reducing the management overhead. But even while it's simple to use, it's very, very powerful in what it does. We're able to actually back up the virtual machines in parallel. We can recover them in parallel to really speed that disaster recovery when you need it. We can move data over the network and over SAN infrastructures as well. We're leveraging the vStorage APIs too. We have a deep integration with those vStorage APIs. So we'll track virtual machines moving around. We'll also integrate with the vStorage motion locking technology as well. So if you're doing a vStorage motion, we'll lock that out while we're doing a backup, so your virtual machine doesn't move and fail the backup. So we can also replicate with vRanger. So we can replicate your virtual machines from one VMware stack to another. So this is a really good enabler for disaster recovery. It's got failover and failback technology. So we can very simply bring those standby virtual machines online and fail back when we need to back to our production instance. vRanger also offers some patented technology called active block mapping. This enables us to look inside the virtual machines we're protecting and look at the data set inside there and differentiate which blocks need to be backed up and which don't. So when we're even looking at an incremental block-based image backup, leveraging the change block tracking inside VMware, we can augment that with our active block mapping technology and reduce the content by a further 30% of the data coming out of that virtual infrastructure. And we do this with a very minimal overhead as well, so we're not going to slow down the backup. One of the other key things that we have inside vRanger here is we can actually catalog the contents of the virtual machines while they're being protected. This enables us to do a full wildcard search for any file across any of the virtual machines in your infrastructure that you have protected. And it's a 3-click restore. So once you've found it, 3 clicks, you restore the file. It's a very, very powerful feature. It's all included in the product, and you don't need to add anything extra. So it's very, very scalable. It hooks into vCenter, it self-discovers everything. It'll back up virtual machines you're adding. You don't need to do anything else. It'll self-discover them. It'll add them into the backup routines you have configured, and away you go. So it's very easy to do, very easy to manage. You can replicate virtual machines to that standby data center as well. So simple, cost-effective, very fast, very granular recovery for that virtual infrastructure. And it's going to scale and grow as your virtual infrastructure scales and grows as well. So moving around to the third segment in our stopwatch now. We're now into the NetVault backup piece. So NetVault's a full heterogeneous, scalable backup and recovery solution. It touches Windows, it touches Linux, it touches Solaris, HPUX, AAX. So we have a broad platform support. And you can install it on all of those platforms as well. So you're not tied to an individual platform to actually install the backup services. It also covers all the applications you want, from the full Windows stack right the way through to the Linux and Unix stacks, whether you're looking at Oracle or MySQL or DB2, Infomix or Sybase, or all of the usual things we find in the Windows environment, Exchange, SQL, SharePoint, etc. So it has a coverage point across all of the applications and operating systems. One of the key things here is it also hooks into all the virtual infrastructures as well. So we can hook into VMware, we can hook into the other virtual infrastructures to give you agentless as well as agent-based if you require it. So now you get the best of both worlds. It'll support disk, it'll support tape, it'll support deduplication content. In fact, at Dell, we're in the middle of integrating all these technologies, and we've just done one of those key integrations. We have a product called the Dell DR4100. It's a dedupe appliance. We've integrated it very, very tightly with a NetVault backup. We introduced a technology called rapid data access. This gives us the ability to do source-side deduplication from any of the NetVault infrastructure directly to the DR4100. So we're no longer tied by bottlenecks through media agents or media servers. So whatever it is you're looking to protect inside an infrastructure, NetVault will have something for you. So whether it's host-based, whether it's virtualization infrastructure, whether it's network-attached storage, whether you're looking at going disk or tape, whatever it needs to be. You get granular recovery as well. Granular recovery of your application data sets, your file systems. In fact, we can even do you a file-level recovery of a virtual machine that's been backed up to tape without restaging the whole virtual machine. The individual file comes out of that image back directly from tape, back to where you need it. Very, very simple to use, highly scalable. So this product scales from the very small to the very large, so your total cost of ownership is going to be good. So when we're talking about that risk versus cost conundrum, it's going to play out very well for you in the future. Some of the other tools that we have available to us as well allow us to actually do some granular object level recovery. So we call these the recovery manager products. We have one for Exchange, one for SharePoint, one for Active Directory. These enable us to actually integrate with all of the major backup products that we have, both AppAssure, vRanger, and NetVault, and pull out some of the content that's already been stored in there. So we can deliver individual mailbox. We can actually do mailbox comparisons across your backed up data in your live Exchange set. We can recover SharePoint granular objects, full farm, site, whatever you need to do with SharePoint. One of the key things is Active Directory as well. Recovery Manager for Active Directory allows us to recover an entire forest, tree, a domain, and even an individual object without actually restarting the Active Directory. So minimizing your downtime. It's a very important piece to remember that Active Directory plays a large role in today's infrastructures, especially if you're all Windows. It's very key that you make sure you have adequate protection and very fast recovery technologies to enable your solutions and systems to actually keep running. And the final piece of the jigsaw I'm going to put in here is a little product called LiteSpeed. So LiteSpeed is kind of aimed at SQL databases. LiteSpeed is very clever in that it has some clever compression algorithms that allow us to actually reduce SQL database by up to 95%, which means we actually move and store less data in those SQL databases. One of the key things with LiteSpeed is its ability to recover. It can be very granular in its recovery technology. We can put an entire instance back and a database back. That's kind of fairly regular for most people. But LiteSpeed gives you the ability to put a table back. You can put a column or a row in a SQL straight back. One of the really nice things is you can actually preview the contents of the recovery before you roll it back into your database. That's something that database administrators really like to do, is to actually see the impact of what the recovery is going to do before actually making that go live. So LiteSpeed enables you to do that. So we've kind of been around the whole clock now. So we've started right from the 12 o'clock and we've run around the products. So AppAssure gives us that very good RTO and RPO technology. High-speed recovery, we can use the data sets while we're still recovering. Very agile recovery model, whether it's virtual or physical, whether you want to move between the two, whether you want to change between those virtual platforms as well. vRanger, that highly scalable, very, very fast backup solution for that virtual infrastructure around VMware. You can back up and you can replicate. You can do things in parallel, move it over your SAN infrastructure, move it over your network infrastructure. However you're currently made, your infrastructure is made up inside VMware, vRanger is going to be able to address that very, very simply. vRanger also addresses that kind of little conundrum we have with people that have gone down that virtualization journey as well. With those few physical servers left over, vRanger can pick those up as well. So it will protect Windows physical servers too, all within the same console, very, very simply. And you get all that same kind of nice content with active block mapping and all the other nice features that we have inside there, working on the physical environment as well. So the final piece in our kind of round-the-clock piece here now is we get into NetVault, that large heterogeneous backup solution. It's going to cover everything that you need. Whether you're looking for it to be in a Windows solution, whether it's in a Unix-based solution, whether you're virtualized, you're semi-virtualized, you're 100% virtualized, NetVault's got the solution, the technology available for you. Whether it's VMware, whether you're looking at Hyper-V, whether you're looking at Windows or Linux, application content as well. Agents and agentless too, so you can actually choose between how you want to deploy this. You can move your data onto disk, onto tape, onto dedupe stores, and don't forget that very deep tie-in with the new Dell DR4100 RDA technology with source-side deduplication. We're seeing over 200% performance improvements in our backup data speeds. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of a view of the content that we have available in our portfolio. Some of the solutions we have available to actually start helping you looking at your data protection, how you can actually use the appropriate technology for the appropriate data, giving the actual view of these solutions are going to be competitive, working at the costs you need inside your infrastructure, without giving you the problems associated with some of the other products we see and some of the other technologies we see. These products will grow and work with you as you move forward, so your total cost of ownership helps you mitigate that risk against cost. So here we can see we can reduce the risk, we can help reduce the cost, reduce the overheads, reduce the management with a complete portfolio available from Dell. If you want to learn a little bit more, then you'll find more content on the software.dell.com website. You will find all of the software products available from Dell there. So you can go and look at the data protection suite, and you can go and look at all the other things that we have available for you and the Dell software group. Thank you very much.